Somebody's having flip the light. Good? All right. Good evening. We'll start this meeting of the Planning Commission with an invocation. If you would like to start us with an invocation, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for all the blessings that you provide for us every day of our lives. And as we enter 2022, we ask that you guide us and keep us safe and healthy, both as individuals and as a nation throughout this year. And bless this board and help guide and direct their discussions and decisions so that they are in the best interest of our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right. Seeing as everybody has gotten a copy of our agenda and the minutes from our December 7th meeting, does anybody have any additions or corrections for the meeting? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion they be approved?
For the minutes.
All right. Any second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Maurice, any addenda to the agenda tonight? All right. We will start with the public hearing on ANX 2106.
The applicant requests to annex approximately 98 acres, which consists of two parcels of land, one located at 601 Simpson Road, and another piece which is on Old Williamston Road, just south of Glenview Middle School. Again, two pieces of land we're talking about. One is a 30.7 acre piece of property where they propose to develop 171 townhouse units. And then on the 67.2 acre parcel, they are proposing to construct 199 houses, single family houses on that property. Again, to get your bearings straight, this is Glenview Middle School. This is Old Williamston Road. This is Simpson Road, located to the south. Cobb's Glen subdivision is located over there. The arbors at Cobb's Glen is located here. So hopefully that'll get your bearings straight. Again, two pieces of property located right here. They are requesting a PDD, Planned Development District zoning classification for the piece of property. And as you know, the PDD document outlines the specific zoning and development details for a particular piece of property, everything ranging from setbacks, density, landscaping, things of that nature. And because this property has two different development classifications, one more of a townhouse, one more of a single family development, the applicant created two different PDD documents. Both of those are included in your packet as a reference. And this evening we'll go over the highlights, but again, you have the entire document in your package. The one that's proposed for townhouse units, that is known as Bailey Creek Commons. We'll call that Bailey Creek Commons this evening. Bailey Creek Reserve is for the single family portion of the property. Now, this is an annexation request, and typically when you see annexation requests, we're dealing with property inside the county that does not have a zoning classification. That's most of the time that's the case. In this particular case, this property does have zoning attached to it, two different zoning classifications. The 30-acre parcel where the townhouses are proposed, that is currently zoned RM7 in the county, which is multifamily residential. That does allow townhouse units, duplex units at up to 7 units per acre. So that's what's currently zoned in the county. For the 67-acre piece of land is zoned PDD, Planned Development District. I believe it was 2008. It was zoned that, and at the time, it included the property where Glenview Middle School is. There was a large single-family development proposed back in 2008. Obviously, it never came to fruition. The school district purchased a piece of property, ultimately built a school on a part of that property. And it is estimated by the time you take out the land that was used for the school and how that affected the guidelines, you have to kind of estimate what it looks like now with this document because it is old and some land was taken out of it. And taking into consideration that the old PDD document in the county mentioned 2.3 units per acre, we're estimating that right now in the county you could build between 124 to 154 houses on that piece of property. Again, that's based on the current zoning in the county. I'm going to go over each piece real quick for you. We're first going to talk about Bailey Creek Commons, which is the townhouse development. Gist of it. Again, the PDD development plan indicates a maximum of 171 two-story townhouse units with access connecting to Simpson Road. The assisted living facility, if you're familiar with that, is located to the east of where the entrance is proposed. The buildings on the site will contain a minimum of 3 townhouse units up to a maximum of 6 townhouse units. So if you can see in here, some of the buildings have 3, some have 6, some have 5. It just ranges throughout the development. The townhouse units will average around 2,200 square feet each and will be constructed with various materials. They listed in the document a combination of vinyl, shake, board and batten siding, hardy board, brick, and stone. The density they have proposed is 5.5 units per acre when you look at this 30 acres and the 171 units. As I mentioned before, county's guidelines will allow right now up to 7 units per acre, so the 5.5 is a little bit less. Per our PDD guidelines in the city, we require at least 10% open space. In this particular case, for this 30 acres, over 50% of it is considered open space. A lot of it's because there's some low-lying areas that's wet, that's really not developable. And then with their open space, they have it, approximately half of the property is not developable. So you can see how it lays out because of that property. Now, as far as Bailey Creek Reserve, which is a single-family development, Bailey Creek Reserve, the document development plan indicates a maximum of 199 single-family units with access onto Old Williamston Road, which is directly across where they have it proposed from Golden Eagle Lane, where I mentioned a moment ago the arbors at Cobb's Glen is located. The houses will range from 1,500 square feet to 4,500 square feet with various building materials. And as you're familiar with, because they went through the process last year, but all houses in the city now must be built on at least a raised slab or a foundation. There's no more slab-on-grade houses. Everything must be built with a minimum floor elevation of at least 12 inches above grade. So with that being said, all the houses will be at least 12 inches above grade. Talked a moment ago about the open space requirements. We'll get into that in a moment. But when you look at the subdivision, the minimum lot size for this development is 7,000 square feet. The average lot size is just under 8,500 square feet. There are some lots scattered in the curves and cul-de-sacs that are in excess of 17,000 square feet. But again, the average lot size is 8,412 square feet. The density for this equates to 2.9 units per acre. And the county's guidelines, again, it mentions in that you could have 2.3 units per acre as currently zoned, which was up to 100. The 10% open space is met under this proposal. About 12.5 acres, or 19% of the property is open space. It has common areas throughout. It has amenities there with a pool clubhouse, but then it has open areas you can see in the shaded areas to provide some open space throughout the subdivision. That's to help break up the monotony of multiple lots in a row. At T intersections, there's some spaces there so headlights won't shine onto houses, things of that nature. So there is enough open space to meet our guidelines on this. In the PDD document, it also talks about landscaping, screening, things of that nature. It talks about trees in the subdivision as far as the size at planting. It talks about having trees on lots, having a street tree effect, having one tree per lot in the front to provide that street tree effect inside the subdivision. In addition to that, as we're talking about landscaping, it's difficult to see here, but along Old Williamston Road, between the right-of-way and the back of the proposed lots, there is a 25-foot buffer. Along Metz Road, same, there's a 20-foot buffer there, and what's proposed per conversations in the PDD document, is to create a berm with landscaping on top of that to help create a buffer between the road, passersby, and the subdivision and residents inside the subdivision. So that is also outlined in the PDD document. Now, I mentioned both of these developments. Now, one thing, they will be connected. As you can see in the subdivision, single-family part in the back, you see a road coming down toward Bailey Creek Commons. Proposed is it connects here to a traffic circle and continuing on down to Simpson Road. So basically, what you'll have is connectivity between the developments, giving residents in the subdivision options to either exit onto Old Williamson Road or onto Simpson Road. Also, each street coming into Old Williamson Road and Simpson Road for residents will have a left turn and right turn out for egress from the subdivision. The plan for the single-family portion in particular is to have a bit of pedestrian connectivity to adjacent Glenview Middle School. We feel that this is extremely important to provide a safe and attractive connection between the neighborhood and Glenview Middle School to give that pedestrian element. And also it can alleviate some traffic, on Old Williamson Road during peak hours if more people walk to school. Speaking of traffic, based on the potential impacts of this development on the surrounding road network, a traffic study was conducted. It was reviewed by the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And one of the main findings was that they recommended that on Old Williamson Road heading northbound, that a left turn lane be created for entrance into the subdivision, much like what you see on Old Williamson Road now with the entrances to Glenview Middle School heading northbound, and then southbound there's a left turn lane entrance into Cobb's Glen subdivision. So again, this is brief and we hit on the high points of this, but the types of residential dwellings, both the single family and multifamily that you see proposed and the density proposed is generally in keeping with the county zoning for the properties. So the staff recommends approval of this, of a development such as this, because it's generally consistent with what's already existing in the county. Now, one condition we do have, I mentioned the left turn lane on Old Williamson Road. We do recommend that a left turn lane is also created on Simpson Road for the entrance to that portion of the development, because if you're familiar with Simpson Road, the way it meanders, we see that it's really necessary to have a left turn lane there to help continue that traffic flow in that area as well. Again, touched on it quickly. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer those. Also, the applicant is in attendance and can answer any specific questions that you may have of them or provide any additional details.
Maurice, can we can't require that left turn lane, correct? We can only recommend it?
Well, with the Planning Commission, the body you are, you make recommendations to the City Council. The City Council can require it as part of the final approval. But if you make that recommendation, the City Council will obviously hear your concerns.
And Ron, are you talking about both the Simpson Road and, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Which is not currently in the plan, if I understand correct?
According to the DOT, or according to the traffic study conducted, it was not included in the plan. So we do feel like it's necessary.
The overall density is actually less than would have been had it been developed in the county.
A portion, yes, sir. Again, it's zoned RM7 in the county. This, which is 7 units per acre, what's being proposed now is 5.5 units per acre for the multifamily, for the town. Now, for the single family, it's a little bit different. It's kind of tough to disseminate with the county's zoning because they took out land to build Glenview Middle School, but when you try to do your calculations with that, it also references 2.3 units per acre. That's where you get that number between 124 to 154 is our best estimate. And again, they're 199, so they're asking for a little bit more density than what is currently allowed in the county.
Okay.
So yeah, just kind of going into it, the simple math is going from 200, what is currently there for the county, what they could do without it being in front of our board at all, could be 210 units instead of the 171 that they're proposing, and the 155 instead of the 199. Okay.
125 and 155 instead of the 199, right?
Okay. Let's see. Any other questions for staff right now?
Glenview Middle handle these students?
That is a question for the school district. Now, keep in mind that this development will be built out over a period of time. According to the applicant, it'll take a year, year and a half to put in the infrastructure. After that, it'll be at least a 4-year build out for the single family portion. It'll be about a 6-year build out for the multifamily portion. And that, again, that depends on market conditions, the economy, and things like that. So the school district typically has time to evolve and adjust and grow and anticipate this type of development. And again, not everybody living in this development will have middle school children. So there's a number of factors involved there. But again, because of the time it takes to build out a subdivision, you're talking close to 10 years, they have an opportunity to make those adjustments.
With the current zoning, I guess the current PDD from the county, do you know if it has anything like the buffer or berm?
From what I saw, it did not. It had mainly items dealing with density and number of units. We find that in the city, and we've annexed a lot of land over the past year, as you well know,
Yeah.
and we've been evolving with Planning Commission and getting public input, and with the city council's direction, we've started seeing products that have higher quality within the development. I'm talking about the open space inside there, breaking up the monotonous lots, having a variety of lot sizes in the development, things of that nature. Also, the buffer we talked about on Old Williamston Road and Metz Road. Those are things you may not see in the county. One other thing I failed to mention is the no slab-on-grade houses. That's something that you typically don't see in people's guidelines in various communities.
As far as city PDD, would this be comparable to like what's currently being built in Harriet Circle near Oakmont, that kind of?
The midway that we,
Yeah.
speaking, these lot sizes, the minimum are 7,000 square feet. Those were 65. So, generally speaking,
Okay.
the same. As a point of reference, you look at the surrounding area, and you have a variety of land uses. You've got Glenview Middle School. You have Cobb's Glen, which is a golf course community. It has larger lots. And across the road, you have that Golden Eagle Way, which those lots are between 5,000 and 8,000 square feet roughly. So those are generally in keeping with what we're talking about here. Again, much different scale. I think you're talking about 30 houses there. But again, those lot sizes across the road may be a little smaller than what the average is here. But you do have a variety of land uses going on around you.
Any other questions for staff?
It would not be one builder, it'd be multiple builders, right?
That we can ask the applicants as far as how many builders will be involved in the process, but they can answer that question for you, Mr. Seegers.
All right.
Maurice, what's the traffic impact with this many houses and this many townhomes?
Good question. Right now, the traffic count on Old Williamston Road is about 6,000 cars per day. On Simpson Road in that general area, likewise, about 6,000 cars per day. When you look at I think it's the Institute of Traffic Engineers, their standards for trip generation, you assume that every house generates about 10 trips per day. And when I say a trip, if you go to the grocery store and come back, that's 2 trips. But houses, single-family houses generally generate about 10 trips per day. When you do the math on that, and then with the multifamily, I believe it's 8 trips per day. So when you do the math on that, this particular segment around Simpson Road, Old Williamston Road, we're talking about 3,400 roughly cars per day. And again, they spread out when they hit the road, whether they go east, west, north, south.
So roughly doubling, 50% of what's already there.
So half again as much.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions for staff? If the applicant would like to step forward, I do have some questions for, I guess, is it Mr. McNair? And just to let you know, the procedures of the Planning Commission, after the staff explains, there's 10 minutes for the applicant, there's 10 minutes for the applicant, 15 minutes for rebuttal, and then 5 minutes again for the applicant to go against anything that might have been said. So, Mr. McNair, starting off, I think, Dave, you want to ask your question on builders?
Yes. How many builders are there going to be?
Thank you. Thank you for your time this evening. Happy New Year to everybody. There's one builder. It's Mungo Homes. Mungo Homes is out of Columbia, South Carolina. We're working with them on another project in Greenville. It's about 316 lots. It's on Forester Drive in Malden. I'd say it's probably a mirror image of that subdivision. It's a quality subdivision with multiple products, multiple price points. I personally think they're a good builder. As a matter of fact, I'm building my own home in that subdivision in Greenville currently with Mungo Homes.
So Mungo Homes will do both the townhomes and the single family? Okay. One question, why, first off, come in and become part of the city when you can already do some of this in the county? And then the other one is why ramp it up to 199 homes instead of 154? So if you could answer those two.
Well, good question, and I think that is the first question that everybody would beg, why are we here at the city versus being in the county? Pretty simple answer is the city owns the sewer there, and we're going to be forced to annex to the city in order to get the sewer. So we actually took this to the county, and the county said, well, no, we don't want to deal with it because the city's going to force you to annex anyway. So that was the response we got. Chris Eberhardt here with us, he's the one that contacted the county about it because we were asked to check with the county, and that's the answer that we did get. The second part of that question
was
Density.
the increase in density of the single family.
We looked at the total acreage and the total lot count, and I said, well, let's seek, about what is already approved collectively between these two properties, what's already approved in the county. As it worked out, just decreasing the amount of townhomes worked out best for us because we were trying to create more open space, trying to create a linear park system starting over on the Simpson Road side, coming along the creek, all the way back to the school, which kind of opens the door to do a linear park system. The entire creek, so kids can walk to school, do that sort of thing. So we just did a trade-off of density from one side to the other, where we're actually only asking for 2 units more than what's already approved in the county.
Any other questions for the applicant? And this might be a question for staff, if we were to do something with the turn lane, would that be more of the Department of Transportation and not for the applicant? It would
Actually, the Simpson Road addition, that's actually a county road. So we would work with the county, and actually if we annex a property, it would be part of the city. So we would be working with our encroachment process, with our engineering department. So that would be a process that would not need DOT approval, although they would be supportive of it for something like this.
For the record, that we are committed to putting in the turn lane on Williamson Highway and on Simpson Road. That is something that the traffic study didn't fully bear that out as being a necessity, but we think it is. We think it's good stewardship on our part to do it and to make a commitment to the neighborhood and everybody in the area to not create greater traffic problems in the area.
Okay. It wasn't notated on the preliminary plat on that on
exactly right.
Commons. So, all right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, Mr. McNair.
No questions. Chris Eberhardt's here, civil engineer for the project.
Well, you'll have a little over 5 minutes after we hear from the opposition. All right. With that being said, I think there are some folks here who would like to speak in opposition to this. So if you would like to step forward, state your name and your address for the record, and then I do ask that we don't say the same things over and over again if there's a similar point. So we'll start with you, sir.
I'm Joe Ogden. I'm on the board of the HOA of Cobb's Glen. We're the folks that live directly across the street from where this project would be, should you approve it. We have some serious concerns about this. It falls into three areas. One, we think this is the wrong project. We think it's the wrong location. And we certainly think it's the wrong time. We have some serious traffic issues in the area that perhaps the traffic report didn't highlight, where you take the certain number of cars all day long and you say, well, we've got 6,000 cars. But you might have 25 or 50 at a traffic stop at a certain time that you can't move around. So we have some real issues on traffic, and I'd like to show this to you in a minute. Back on the project, over in Cobb's Glen, we like to think it's a lovely subdivision. We have 1.5 homes per acre. We've got a golf course and a swimming pool and lots of trees. And across the street, this project is requested at 199 units on 44 acres. The county approved a few years ago 2.3 units per acre, as was mentioned. The developer wants to do 2.9. If you take out the wetlands that are part of the total property, you wind up with 44.5 acres for residents. That is 4.5 homes per acre, or 3 times the density of the community across the street. That isn't really as much the issue as you have with the setbacks. The setbacks on those homes are 10 feet in the back. You've got a 10-foot backyard. On the side, it's 7 feet. This distance is 6 feet. In the front, it's 20 feet from the road right away. We call for 40 feet across the street. When you put a car in the 20-foot driveway, there's not much room left. You can't turn that car around. You back out onto the street. Most of those homes will likely have cars in the driveway, backing out onto the street. And as you can see with the curves, that creates a hazard. The adjoining unit or property that they're talking about onto Simpson is 171 units, which is multi-housing. They have the same setbacks, the same problems with cars that could get hit, people that could get hurt backing out onto the road. But they aren't 4.5 units per acre. They're 16 units per acre. So we think with such a high density property in this area, the real problem with this is the number of folks that will be crammed into this area. Presently, you have about the same number of homes as the rest of the subdivisions across the street. So typically, you're going to double the traffic. I want to show you a picture of what our cross today. See this whole thing. This happens to be Midway and Crestview, and you can probably even see the church in the corner. This happens twice a day, every day the school's in session. There's 25 cars lined up there. Here is Crestview. Here is Simpson and Calhoun. And here is Simpson and Old Williamston. There are about 25 automobiles in each one of these lines. And if anybody's been through Atlanta, you know what it's like, stuck in traffic that is parked. It's aggravating, It's time wasting. You're looking around thinking of different ways of how am I use my phone, and you run into other cars, creating damage and personal injury. That's our problem today. That's why we object to this today. What we don't need is, we're thinking we need a solution for this, and adding 700 more cars out there is not the solution. Now we talk about it's the wrong time. Right now, there's roughly 1,000 other homes in this general area that have already been approved and are going to be built. Those have been approved. This hasn't yet. So we're going to add the cars from another 1,000 homes into the mix here with no difference in the infrastructure. We should, I think, and we think, we should be focusing on the infrastructure, not how do we add more homes here. And so we have 3 solutions for this. And unfortunately, I see you have another piece of property on the other side of Midway that is being considered to add probably even more homes. The 3 solutions would simply be, 1, don't approve this. 2, ask them to go ahead and build it, but put it in a location where it isn't already congested and creating danger. There's got to be other pieces of property where they could build. But if the developer refuses to do that, there's a 3rd suggestion, and the one that may make the most sense, and that is table it. Give it some time. Give us an opportunity to see what's going to happen with 1,000 homes that are going to be added to this mess in the next 18 months. Let us work with you, with the county, on how do we reduce the congestion in these areas. How do we help the schools prepare for additional people coming in here and do it in an orderly fashion? In 12 to 18 months, we'll know a whole lot more than we do right now about what the impact of these 1,000 homes are going to have on these corners, much less what's going to happen if you put 700 more cars out on top of it. So that is our request to you, is to give this some careful thought. Let us work with you to solve the congestion problems before we even think about adding another 700 cars to the mix. Thank you.
Mr. Ogden, I do have a question for you. So you understand that this is already approved to have some of the things you're asking us not to do. Like you could already do they could already put 210 units of the townhomes and 155 of the single family homes.
I think if that goes
Oh, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, it's already,
They can do it right now.
if they wanted to.
All we're doing is we're annexing it into the city. So we're not changing, we're adding 2 homes. So you're adding 4 cars. So I hear everything you're saying.
Yeah.
But you understand it's already done. They could do it right now without coming to us. They don't need a zoning meeting to do this.
But I do understand.
in that area, believe me, and try and get around.
Can we talk about the infrastructure? Aren't they doing some infrastructure
Maurice,
work?
yes.
Some of the areas they're talking about, they're doing traffic circles.
But that could be, if come maybe, and it might be 5 years from now. I mean, this is going to get to be a nightmare. And to think about what happens when we have emergencies and a fire breaks out and a truck tries to get down that road, or somebody, God forbid, has a heart attack.
So, Maurice, the question for staff is there anything being done for any of these intersections, or, because like Mr. Ogden said, I've been there taking children to school and things like that, and it is frustrating.
Well, and that's why there's a couple of projects that are already in the works. And I believe Mr. Ogden alluded to Midway, Crestview, that area over there. As you know, you annexed property in that area. Well, it's last year now, it's 2021. But As part of that, you were aware at the time that there was already approved projects with DOT to build 2 roundabouts. One is to relocate Harriet Circle into Midway Road to avoid that strange intersection by Midway Church. Also create another roundabout at Crestview and Midway. That is in progress right now. The build-out time on that, you're talking 2 to 3 years before it's complete. Now, as far as this stretch of road on Old Williamston Road is concerned, yeah, we're very aware of the concerns with traffic. And again, Mr. Ogden had some good points with great photographs showing where the traffic backs up at these 4-way intersections, 4-way stops, at this 3-way stop. That's where you see a lot of this congestion. Now, again, this is down the road, but we recognize that. The Anderson Area Transportation Study, which is a group of the legislative delegation of Anderson, city council representatives, county council representatives, and at-large members. That's a group assembled that works with state and federal funds on road projects in the area. For instance, those roundabouts came through that ANATS. The East-West Parkway came through ANATS. In the long-range plan, which is being created right now for the next update, we are including Old Williamston Road, that stretch really beyond where Cox Road is, out to Crestview, I would say, all the way down to Calhoun and where Calhoun Academy of the Arts is located, to look at traffic improvement solutions for that area. Again, the plan's being developed now, so obviously that's forthcoming. It's not an immediate result, but we are recognizing and aware of the fact that there are traffic issues in the area. But there are a couple projects that are actively underway.
So for Crestview and Midway, for Harriet Circle coming out, those are going to be addressed pretty quickly.
Yes.
But I can tell you, I understand what they're saying. I've been out there.
The 3-way stop at.
Yep.
I was on my way. I see Mr. Settle over there. I was on my way to the Roundtrees one morning to pick him up to go do something, and I went that way. I'll tell you, I'll never go that way again.
Yeah, at peak times you see.
In the morning I won't. So I think all of us have probably been out there and we are aware of that. So, I hear what you're saying, future plans, but like what kind of timeline are we talking about? Can we make a part of this be that we need to address these intersections?
We can certainly look into other options in addition to the ANATS and long-range plan. That's just where a lot of your funding comes from. And obviously, as you know, road projects take a lot of money. But again, there are areas that need to be addressed. Like you mentioned, that 3-way stop that you were stuck at, yeah.
At the end of the day, this is private property, and they are entitled to do what they want to with it. So to some degree, they stay within the zoning, and we know the current zoning allows them to do it anyway, so we're not really adding anything. But we do need to be aware of the traffic issues we're creating. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Ogden.
Mr. Ogden.
Is there any other folks that would like to?
One last thing. I hear what you're saying, that this has already been approved by the county. That's frustrating to us. We didn't realize the county said, we thought it was a planning document, but not an approval to build. It sounded like to us, the approval to build is coming here. And it would be our hope that as part of that is, let's get this infrastructure fixed before the first house is built. You have approval to build, but after the infrastructure is fixed. That's what we would hope you gentlemen could do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
Well, Mr. Ogden, I'll let you know, we're a recommending board. All we do is say whether or not this passes muster for what we do in the city, and then it goes in front of city council, which will probably be next week.
January 4th is, yeah.
So at that point, that's usually when the city council will say whether they want to table it or take it into more consideration. We basically just say, this is, do we want to bring this into the city? Do we want to abide by the same PDD that's already there? So that's usually what we would do here at this board. But as you said, like if we were to deny it and also the city council were to deny it, then the they would have to go in front of the county to do the same things about building.
Fine, we'd love to see that happen. We'd love to.
All right.
The roads.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ogden. Nick? Yes, sir. Please step forward and state your name and where you live.
My name is Rick Bradshaw. I live at 404 Quail Hollow, that is in Cobb's Glen. I'm also the chairman of the Anderson District 5 School Board. Have been on that board for the past 16 years and was involved in the building of Glenview. So, but the first thing I want to do is not speak as chairman. I just wanted to mention one road that y'all have failed to mention is Simpson Road. Simpson Road is probably the worst out of all that we've talked about, because as you exit Old Williamston and you turn onto Simpson, there's really an S curve right there at North Point Senior Living. The least bit of water, it's slick as glass. When there is ice, you can count the cars as they run off the road down into North Point. It's one of the worst. You know, we have people from Newport Commons walking up and down the road, you know, because of a lack of public transportation. They're forced to walk with no sidewalks. So they walk in the road on a very dark road with no lighting that I know of. We recently had a pedestrian struck and killed, not found till the next morning, laying in a ditch. I think that was on city property, not city property, but in the city limits on Simpson Road. So this isn't a new problem about Simpson Road, but it will just multiply when you add 171 multifamily units exiting to the very worst part of Simpson Road, at the bottom of the hill, right at the S curve, in the S curve. And I think there may be weight limits on the small bridge that crosses, that's also on Simpson Road. I'm not sure about that, but I would encourage you to check that out to make sure that there's no traffic concerns over that small bridge. But please take into consideration what these all of these cars are going to do to Simpson Road. You know, yes, so many exits, entrances and exit trips, I understand all that. But if they don't have that exit onto Simpson Road, that forces them all going to work, exiting on Old Williamston. So I can just see the problem multiplying. I think a better solution, let's separate them both and ask them to put an exit somewhere other than where they're putting it. That's me as an individual, but I also came wanting to speak to you as a school board member, as the school board chairman. You asked some questions about can we absorb the size? First of all, let me thank you for your service. I know how tough it is to serve. I know how tough it is in today's times that you sacrifice a lot for your service, and I appreciate it. I just want to let you know that up front. Our boards are a lot alike. Y'all have to foresee the future. You know, you have to look ahead and say, what could happen? How could it be? And y'all try and help us plan a direction for the city to make it a better community for all of us. And for that, I thank you. But we also have to do that on the school board. We look at a lot of demographics when we're planning where to put a school or capacity of schools or, boy, that terrible word, rezone our schools. We have to look at all the demographics. That's where well, in the last few months, I've heard 3 different numbers, okay? We at District 5, we use a half a child per home, okay? K through 12, a half a child per home. I've heard some attorneys talk about 1 child per home, and I've heard some school superintendents talk about 1.5. Not our superintendent, but I've heard some superintendents talk about 1.5 children per home. So that can make a big difference. You know, if we choose to use the half, we're very capable of handling the increase. But I'd ask you to look at the increase as a whole of what you may have in the past year already approved. Where those 600 homes at Nevitt Forest doesn't really affect the traffic at Cobb's Glen, but it does affect where they go to school. They would all be Glenview and Hannah, okay? All of the ones you have approved would be Glenview and Hannah, including this one. So we have to be able to say, what's it going to look like in 10 years when it's built out? And we hope, right now, our middle schools, our elementary schools, we foresee we can handle that growth without additional buildings. You know, sometimes it's necessary to build a new wing, those kind of stuff. And, you know, we can probably do that in time. But when it comes to our high schools are a different story. Hannah, both of our high schools are basically landlocked. So it takes the amount of expansion that you can do to those schools and limits it a lot. So we're looking at different options as a school board as to how to handle future growth. We've been forced to look at how we're going to handle this future growth because from the numbers, close to 2,000 homes, 1,800, I think altogether maybe, it could be anywhere from 18 to 2,500 kids, maybe 900 to 2,500. You know, it is something that we're having to look at. We've delayed some of our building plans just to make sure that our schools are capable of handling the growth. That's our job, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be sure that whatever you decide, we're able to handle it. But it doesn't come without a sacrifice of those things we could have had if we didn't do this. So again, I ask you to look at it as a whole, not only of how it affects traffic, you know, with terrible placement of those roads. I don't know if you'd get, and I don't know if it has to have DOT permission to get a curb cut on those roads, but I'm not sure that DOT would even grant the curb cuts. Maybe the developer can tell you more about that. But again, I hope I've answered some of your questions. We will be prepared to handle the growth, but it comes as a sacrifice. It may come as a tax increase if we have to build a third high school. I don't think, you know, who knows the building prices of high schools. I've seen them over $100 million. So I know we're not ready to take on that right now as a school board. So we would look more toward expansion any way we could. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. And thank you for your sacrifice.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. Anyone else need to speak to? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Walter Welsh. I live at 112 Sea Palms Drive, also in Cobb's Glen. I'm the president of the HOA there. I'd like to echo the concerns that were presented by Joe Ogden and appreciate Mr. Bradshaw being here and give us the school board's point of view on that. I'd like to kind of go back a little bit. I've been at Cobb's Glen for 22 years. I don't know how many people in the community that long, but we had a similar situation about 20 years ago where I believe the company was Aho Builders was going to come in, and they were going to put 400 homes on about 99 acres, and all of this property, the property we are talking about as well, borders a natural wetland. Basically, you know, if you're from the South like I am, we call it a swamp. It's undevelopable, cannot be developed. Let me try that. And what I've noticed in the presentation here is that the natural areas, the undeveloped areas, are just the wetlands that you couldn't build on anyway. The layout that was sent here, that was presented here, was showing just everything, just pie shape after pie shape after pie shape, side by side by side by side by side. And to me, natural areas or common areas are intermingled within the property, not set off over here to the side and say, well, that's our natural area. Well, you couldn't build on it anyway. That's a concern. I think it's navigating the waters a little bit. You know, one of the things I'd like to say is I'm not against development. I'm in the business of development. So I'm not here to, you know, cut my own throat or anybody else that's in the business. We understand the world is changing, but what we think needs to happen is it needs to be changed responsibly. You know, the old Southern adage is you don't put the cart before the horse. Well, I feel like that's what we're doing here. We do live in this traffic congestion every single day. I'll give you a quick point of reference. Unfortunately, a friend of ours who passed away with COVID, we went to a funeral. You know where Sullivan King Mortuary is on 81. You know where Cobb's Glen is on Old Williamston Road. Typically, it's a 5-minute drive. I left to go to that funeral, and it took me nearly 30 minutes to get there. That short drive. In the afternoon, as school was letting out, as people were coming home, it took that much time. We're talking about exacerbating that situation. I don't know what the numbers are, at least 2, 3, 4 times what currently exists based on the number of houses and projects. They're just on your agenda tonight. But 20 years ago, when Aho Home, I think it's Westwood Point, is that what it's called? Was being developed, they wanted to put 400 homes in there. The community, just like you see here tonight, got together and said, guys, this doesn't make sense. Why would you try to put 400 homes and you've got infrastructure, you got roads that have got to be put in there? You know, that doesn't count what you've got to take out for the roads as far as where you can build a house. So we got together as a community and voiced our concerns, and that's when the zoning was took place in the county. At that time, there was no zoning in the county at all. Now, I'd like a little bit of clarification on that zoning. So, as I understand it, the property for, it's the commons and the what?
The commons and the reserve?
The commons is the multifamily and the reserve is the single family.
Correct.
What is the current zoning for the reserve property?
Well, that was what was brought up back in 2008, which I was going to ask you, since you've been in Cobb's Glen for 22 years, did you show up when the county was?
Wasn't aware that there was a zoning issue. If the sign didn't go up, I wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
As soon as the sign went up, we made calls.
So for the reserve, it's currently zoned that where they could put in about 155 houses in the reserve and 210 units in the commons.
Based on what zoning?
Current
The
county.
current county zoning.
Asking, what is that current zoning? I got the number, the initially,
Can you answer
Let's
that?
see, RM7 for the townhomes, and where is it on the?
PD for the property, the single-family portion on Old Williamson Road, and it has a breakdown in terms of density. It had initially in 2008, when it was originally approved, it included the property that now houses Glenview Middle School. So with the document, it doesn't quite match what's there now because some land was taken out, but when you do the calculations based on the information in the county document that was provided to us by the county, we estimate roughly 124 to 154 houses could be built based on how you calculate this document. And again, the other one is RM7 in the county.
And the current project is for 199.
Yes.
Proposed, correct.
Proposed.
Yes, sir.
On what I understand is 44 acres.
67.
57.
57 minus the
67.
the wetlands. Okay, so we're up, 40 to 70 homes, basically. 40 to 75 homes, which makes a difference. I mean, let's just face it. If you've been out there, a couple of you guys have stated that you have. One of the gentlemen who stepped out said he did it once and he's not doing it again. We don't have that choice. We live there, and we have lived there. Cobb's Glen, thankfully, if you're familiar with the newspaper, Cobb's Glen has been voted the #1 community in the area several times by the readers of the local newspaper. We try to do it right. We don't get everything right, but we try to do it right. And that's all we're asking here. Because I understand you've got your hands tied. As president of the HOA, I've got my hands tied. There's certain things I can and I can't do. But just like 20 years ago when I was involved in the zoning process then, and we turned a 400-home subdivision into about 125, and it's a nice, it's way better than 400. You know, they were looking for 0 lot lines. They were looking for less than 5,000 square feet. Well, as a community, we got together and said, you know what, it should be R20. You know, we're not in the immediate outskirts of the city where high-density housing may be common, but we're also in the south where, as Joe Ogden pointed out earlier, there's lots of property in our county that doesn't have to be right here on top of where we already have existing problems. And there's a city zone, but, you know, unless you happen to pass a road that says, now entering the city limits, I'm not sure where that's at. You know, it doesn't say, welcome to Anderson County as you're leaving the city, because you're in Anderson County. We are a community. We see each other, we go to church together, our kids go to school together, we go to sporting events together, we drive them down the same roads, a lot of us. But we're a community, and what we're trying to do here is say, come on, let's develop this, you know, in a proper manner that doesn't add to an already troubled situation. I'm not against the developer. I'm not against the development. What I would like to see is a little more thought process and not such high density in an area where we're already experiencing traffic problems. When they built the middle school, they told us they were widening Old Williamson Road. They did, right in front of the school, nowhere else. And that created these bottlenecks that we're experiencing right now. So if we can look at it from a responsible, you guys are leaders in this community, you know, if we can look at it in a responsible manner, if we can appeal to the nature of the developers here, say, look, I know that at 199 homes, you're going to make a lot more money. But my proposal is, Joe, what was the size of the house that just built in Cobb's Glen, the white one, one of the last ones? 4,500? Yeah. There's opportunity there as well. There's opportunity at larger, less dense housing, if not more, than what's being proposed here. So if it could be addressed, if we could have a conversation. I had no idea this happened in 2008, that the county approved anything like that. I don't get that kind of information. I don't think any of us do. And you see, when we find out something's going on, we turn out. You know, we love our community, and we want to be a part of it. And we hope that the developers that come in here, they want to be a welcome part of it too. So we do ask that if you can, to table it so that further studies can be given on the traffic study. That is done on a daily, okay? That's per day. That's a 24-hour period. It's not the 24-hour period that we worry about. It's the going to school, going to work, getting out of school, getting home from work. You take those 6,000 cars or whatever that is, and I looked the report up, and I don't know how accurate it is, but and having lived there, I don't remember the cables that they put out to count cars. I haven't seen that, and I couldn't tell you when. So we just ask that you take that in consideration, do everything you can within your power to at least table it and allow for some further discussion and some further studies and see if we can develop this thing in a proper manner.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. All right. So do we have any other in opposition that is different than what we've already heard? All right, hearing none. Mr. McNair, would you like to have your 5 minutes to speak? All right.
Thank you. Chris Eberhardt's going to join us. He can answer some of the questions as far as from civil engineering and design. And first thing I want to address is say, good points that have been brought up. I don't want to argue with traffic. It's problems everywhere. I moved from Charlotte back to Greenville. Greenville traffic's terrible. It's everywhere, unfortunately. I'd like to think that SCDOT had the money to do it. A 1 cent penny sales tax could do a lot. A lot of counties in South Carolina have already gone to a penny sales tax to improve roads, but that's not my bailiwick. I'm not here to tell anybody what they need to do in their county. As far as the schools, I'm certainly not going to challenge what I've heard about the school systems. I think Anderson's got great schools. As far as Simpson Road is concerned, do understand that the county already has a plan to widen the bridge at Simpson Road where our entrance on the Simpson Road is. That's already been civil engineered, designed, and it is in the progress of being widened. So we're going to take those plans, which we already have them, and we're going to improve Simpson Road more so than just the bridge itself. It will include widening on up to create a better radius there, so it'd be better sight visibility on that road, and hopefully to change some of the curvatures and angles there. And I'm not an engineer, so I can't get into the specific details of what that design is going to look like. But I can say that we do have that in our plans to do it. And, just off the cuff, we're working in Dorchester County down in Charleston, and traffic's horrible. Infrastructure's way behind. And, it's a sad thing. People are moving there. They're going to continue to move there. Anderson's got the blessing of creating so many jobs, so much industry along the 85 corridor that this price point housing is very important and vital to Anderson County. But I can say that we're not blind and we're not deaf to the residents and the neighbors that are already there. Lifestyles have changed. People want smaller yards. They don't want as much to maintain. They want to be able to turn the key and leave, want to be more mobile, more transient. So for all those reasons, I'm just saying that one suggestion that I've got is that, I will be head of the Homeowners Association in this new subdivision for a long time, and I would like to engage with the Homeowners Association across the road. There's a lot of things that we could do that would be beneficial to both communities. I would say go out and hire hire a policeman or somebody out there to direct traffic during these busy time periods, because turn signals don't always work. Traffic circles are too expensive. Three-way intersections are a problem. So these are roads that were built a long time ago, granted, but there's things that we can do, things that we can help to assist with. And as far as the wetlands, I can let Chris answer this and speak things that we've done as far as the density. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Us giving us this opportunity to address some of your concerns, questions. I'll try to address each thing as it comes to me. So there was some discussion about the traffic study, the roads. We did have a traffic study done. Through DOT to get encroachment on Old Williamston Road. Did have that meeting with them. The traffic engineers, all the counts are in here, all the technical data. So their recommendations, were based on the standards of study in the industry, was to do the left turn lane on Old Williamston, but not necessarily on Simpson Road. It wasn't required from a DOT standards in the industry for the traffic counts, but like Steve mentioned, for the good of the community and be good stewards, we are going to be putting that in. It wasn't shown on that plan at the time because the study wasn't finished quite yet. This just got finished before the holiday. So that may be, if you have any other questions on that, the information with you. As far as the density goes, the original plan that they had approved, the PD, PUD development, back when they did the school, once they split that property off, there were some areas that had different kind of densities on it, and that's what y'all mentioned before. It was 2 point some odd per acre, 2.3 or something. Add all of this up, all the acreage between the two projects, and we've reduced the number of units we could get on that zoning there. 7 units per acre that the county currently has it zoned as. Take that density. One of the things that changed since 2008 was FEMA did new flood studies, which reduced, they did a detailed study up Bailey Creek, which on the new FEMA maps that moved the floodplain down closer because they got more accurate data. Also, we've mapped the wetlands, and so they were making some assumptions on that initial map, which had that line far up, like the old maps that were pre-2011. The new maps came out in 2011. So everything got approved in 2008 for the PD, and that changed the acreage. So when you take that acreage, and now we've got our floodplains and all are further down the hill, that's how it turns out. It's about 2.9. It's not even a full digit more per acre. But when you add all those together, the acreage and the density, excuse me, it's not as high a density as it would appear. And of course, figuring out the density, we use the total acreage for the whole thing. Some of those with the wetlands we've delineated and gotten approved as far as the delineations, there are more areas. I grew up just down the road in Dobbins Estates. So I'm very familiar with Simpson Road and Cobb's Glen. Went to Hannah, went to Clemson. So I'm familiar with the area. There are areas along that they plan to put trails and things because it's not wetlands right into a swamp, so to speak. And that's true for both of the backs of both these developments. And one of the things in talking with DOT and trying to mitigate some of these concerns on the traffic was by tying these two neighborhoods together, it accomplished a couple of things on how you distribute your traffic pattern. But it also accomplished one other thing, is that when we talked to the water company, then I think Hammond, Big Creek, or Hammond Water District, they're going to run a water line up that'll loop that whole area. It's going to start on Simpson Road, connect to the existing line, and go up through the neighborhood, go through both of them as the main backbone, so to speak, connect up on Old Williamston. So if you have problems in an area, you'll have better redundant water system in the whole regional area. So that is one consideration to think of from a utility standpoint. Let's see. There are some pictures of some of the products that they have got underway right now. I don't know if you've seen those, the type of product that they're doing. Package, but
Was not. Thank you for showing us that. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Chris. Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion on ANX 2106?
I make a motion, we approve it.
All right. Approved as submitted? Any discussion on this?
I'd like to discuss that. I'd be more inclined to approve it if it was more in line with what the county has already.
2 units?
Taking it to, I was thinking the same thing, where it's taking the reserve back down to the 2.3.
So we're talking a reduction in 2 units. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. We're talking 2 houses.
Yeah. All right, so we can amend the motion that approved with the reserve being under the current PDD. Can we do that?
Leave the the townhouse portion as is, and then you're saying reduce the
Reserve, the
99.
That's more than 2 houses. It's 40 to 70.
Really, it's 2 units.
yeah.
If you take the multifamily and you could increase the multifamily, what you're saying. So you're saying it'd be okay for them to increase the multifamily to what the county allows? And then reduce the single family to what the county allows? 'Cause, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You gotta pick.
So what we're saying is,
We're gonna do what the county says, or we're gonna do or not. The county says they can have more multifamilies and fewer single families, but
I'm saying we take what we want. And so, I say we do with the PDD.
developers are spending a lot of money in increasing the tax revenue in the county, in the area, and it is private property.
Exactly, and they can decide from,
They already can do what they want to do without even talking to us.
correct.
So at least we're improving the development by not letting them do slab.
Put in the burns.
Hey, Maurice, can I ask you a question? Has anybody talked to public service about this, fire, police, anybody? Have they been considered, are they going to be able to service these homes and?
Yes, good question. And this area can be served by city services. Again, the infrastructure is there from a water sewer standpoint, obviously. We've discussed that tonight. Fire Station 3 is right around the corner, the quick response time. With our sanitation garbage pickup service, that is growing as development grows, so they too can serve this area.
All right, so getting back to the motion on the, that has been proposed, you would like to go with the motion of, if we're going to change to the 2.3 in the PDD, that we
Increasing the multifamily to what the county said.
which would go from 5.5 per unit to 7 to unit.
We're reducing the number of units they can build in the single family. Let's give them more units in the multifamily.
Okay. All right, so
We're worried about density. What they currently can do is 2 units less than what they're asking us to do.
correct. All right. So the motion on the floor is that we match the county's current PDDs with the, still keeping with our, with the density of what the county currently has, and keeping with our building standards and berms.
So we're saying that for the 67 acres, then that equates to that 2.3 units per acre is what we're talking about. And doing the simple math, it's 154 single-family units is what we're talking about. Based on that, okay.
That increases the multifamily units, correct?
Yes, so what we're saying is going to the,
You're saying that you're allowing them the opportunity to, go up to,
Land use density. We're less dense if we do 2 fewer multifamilies and just leave our 2 fewer single families and leave the multifamilies as are. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. All right, so the motion is,
My motion would be just to reduce the number of units by 2, and let them choose which units they eliminate.
yes,
That would bring them in line with what the current county requirements are. and let them decide based on land density and how they divide the land up, whether they do 2 multifamily, 2 single-family, just eliminate the units by 2. That brings them in line with what the county currently is allowing them to do on number of units, and let the developer decide what's the best way to do that.
Okay.
That's what I would, I mean, I'll modify my motion to that.
Okay. Did you get that?
Is that?
Basically, yeah, just hearing that you're reducing it by 2. We're not talking about the density numbers, because in the PDD document that's already existing, there's kind of talks about 2.3 units per acre, then it talks about numbers per tract. So we're assuming that it was that 124 to 154 number, but you're saying, yeah, so we're saying, okay. Okay.
Current standards with the county does not have the construction standards. It does not have the landscaping standards and everything else that we're going to put in.
Improve the development by just some of the things that the city has done.
Hearing that, would someone like to second that motion? All right. More discussion. So.
I would say just vote up and down what we got here.
So you're saying vote up and down current, the first motion. All right.
Vote up or down on what we just.
Of the current as is.
No modifications.
All right. So the motion is as submitted. All right. So hearing that, and Dave will second that, all in favor?
Yes.
Is it more discussion on that? Okay. All in favor to that, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. So,
Please, so I can.
ayes was 3-2.
Hey.
Got it.
All right. So the motion passes, and we'll go in front of City Council on January 24th.
Right, same time, 6 o'clock, right here.
So moving along, we'll go to RZ 2109, which is a request to rezone from R20, single-family residential, to RM10, multi-family residential, approximately 10 acres, located at 110 Fairway Green.
Couple minutes to, yeah.
I mean, to be a cat, I mean, I'm just like, at some point 27, 30 years ago,
Yeah, Maurice.
everybody who lived out there didn't want that to happen either, but it's just called growth. People are moving to Anderson, they got where to live. And,
Mr. Ogden, I would say bring those back to the January 24th meeting. All right. So now we're looking at RZ 2109, which is 110 Fairway Green.
Is requesting to R20 single-family residential to RM10 multifamily residential in order to develop 68 townhouses on the site. RM10 zoning allows 8 units per acre, and they're requesting, again, 68 townhomes on the 10 acres, so that proposal will meet the density standards if you do rezone it. Again, the layout, well, first of all, I'll talk about the existing zoning in the area. This is Fairway Green, if you're familiar with that. This is Highway 29, going up Williamston Road, so the highway department is in this area. And again, you see a variety of zoning classifications. Again, adjacent to it, you have a duplex development, which is zoned RM10, and that's what the zoning classification is that they are recommending adjacent to it. You have single-family residential in the area. You have industrial zoning classifications in the area, neighborhood commercial, and as I mentioned, you have RM10 zoning, so a variety of zoning classifications. And this property abuts a site that's zoned RM10. It complexes on that property. The Share Head Start School is located behind this property. Showing you a little bit more detail as far as what they're proposing with the units. Again, you see 3 and 4 buildings, or units and buildings. This is Fairway Green. It comes down, has a circular cul-de-sac. It is their request to ultimately have these roads treated as public streets. And if this is approved, they will go before the subdivision plat approval process. So this would come back to approval on that at some point moving forward. But again, this is the proposal for the townhouse units on this site at 110 Fairway Green. Staff recommends approval of this. This property has been vacant for some time, and actually it was used for a while for storage of landscaping materials for a company, which was kind of a non-conforming use. Years ago, for those that may be interested in why it's called Fairway Green, there was a par 3 golf course located in this area and a driving range. So that's kind of the history behind the name Fairway Green. But again, be glad to answer any questions. The applicant's here if you'd like to talk more details with them.
So the current zoning, you said is RM10.
R20.
So it's kind of a buffer right now between the RM7 and the that Premier Road, the RM, or no, that is RM10 as well, correct?
Premier Court is RM10.
Okay.
Proposing, and then around it you have single-family residential. You have a Share, the Head Start school building there. You have neighborhood commercial located here.
Oh, okay.
So again, variety of zoning in the area. And then as you get over here, it becomes property that's unincorporated in the county.
Maurice, how many acres is it again?
Acres.
So we're not talking into here.
No. Any other questions for staff?
And under current zoning, how many units would be allowed on the 10 acres? Under current zoning, how many units would be allowed on the current?
Which means single-family houses, 20,000 square foot lots.
So how many homes would that be on 10 acres?
Yeah, roughly 20, give or take. You'll have to take out some infrastructure, obviously, for roads.
All right. Let's see, do we have, the applicant is here. So if you'd like to step forward and just kind of let us know what your reasoning is behind going from the R20 to the RM10, that would be.
Thank you all again. I know the hour's getting late. Going from R20 to a townhome development is fairly straightforward. 20,000 square foot lot there. The density, obviously, we get more density. The product that we're offering would be a lower price point product, workforce housing. We think that's a good location for workforce housing, for policemen, firemen, teachers, so forth, so on. Reason the topography is a little bit challenging for a 20,000 square foot lot and house to fit on it. So property immediately adjacent to it does have higher density zoning to it. So we thought it was appropriate that we do have a neighbor, and I believe those are I think that zoning, Maurice, I believe that's R20. 20. The property beside us is what?
RM10 is
10, yeah. So we thought it appropriate, being adjoining that property, that it's a good fit. Again, it's workforce housing. The price point would be certainly affordable. That's the primary reason.
I had a question. I was going to ask Maurice, the property next door that is already RM10, does it currently have townhomes? What is
Yeah, they're duplexes, and it was, I'm sorry I didn't bring the file with me, I was going to, but that was rezoned many years ago.
So it kind of shows.
So we're talking a similar type.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that it was non-conforming use.
We don't know really what happened there, so.
A similar type development to what's already next door.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Evans, do you know what that is immediately behind it, the green?
Yeah,
Head Start.
school.
That's the Head Start school? Okay.
How many builders again? Just one?
One builder.
Mungo Homes? Local builders, right?
Thank you for coming back.
New townhome product. They are building in the Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson area. They're upstate builders.
Okay.
Are we talking about a similar product to what you would see over at Bailey Creek, or maybe a little step down from that? And
It'd be a little step down. The floor plans would be very livable. This could be a little more vinyl than what you'd see at Bailey Creek. I'd say it'd be a step down some, but not tremendously. I think it'd be really good. And we're trying to deliver an affordable product. That's the key there.
Thank you. All right. So is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of this? All right. Hearing none, would did somebody step forward? Hearing none, would somebody like to?
Maurice, has your office heard anything about this?
Any phone calls?
Calls, property's been posted, but we received no calls, no comments, public.
Hearing
Be approved.
motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. So that will move forward as well to the city council meeting on January 24th. Oh.
We'll check that. It may be the 10th, but I'll double check that. It could be the 10th or the 24th.
Next up is the preliminary plat approval, SD 210, oh no. Yes, SD 2106, request for approval of preliminary plat for K-Field Farms.
Located at the corner of the road, you can see it shaded in the highlighted area. This and also this 50-acre parcel of land that was approved and annexed by council in September. And the request is for preliminary plat approval of the subdivision, which is known as K-Field Farms. And in front of you, you have the preliminary plat that we typically go through, as you know, as we go through the development process. Again, the property has already been annexed in the Plan Development District. The zoning application included that outlines specific development by the city council. A maximum of 159 lots are allowed on this property. The minimum lot size is 6,500 square feet, but there's a provision to require varying lot sizes to provide diversity in the look and layout of the development. That's why you see the different color scheme up there. Approximately 30 lots are to be over 11,000 square feet. 29 lots are between 8,500 and 11,000 square feet. 100 lots are be between 6,500 and 8,500 square feet. The PDD standards require 10% open space. This plan indicates 9.41 acres, 19% being open space. So again, all of that went through the process with Planning Commission, City Council. There were work sessions, a lot of public involvement, and this was approved in September. Next step is for preliminary plat approval prior to them moving forward. But in order to obtain plat approval, the following must be addressed on the plat. It's the basic things like map drawn to scale, the name and location of subdivision, name of the owner and surveyor, scale, information about adjacent parcels of land, boundary lines, street layouts, proposed lot lines and lot numbers, contour lines, utilities, lines, proposed locations of storm sewers and sanitary sewers, and the location of platted streets and easements within the development. And again, approving this will give the developer authorization to proceed under the supervision of the city engineer with installing the infrastructure, staking of lots, really the next step in the development process. And from the staff's review of the plat, all the requirements are met from the preliminary plat. Also, it does address everything that was approved ultimately by City Council in September. One item they do not have included are the actual building setback lines on each individual lot, which we typically see, but they did highlight that, as you can see in the color shaded area, saying that they are aware of the building setbacks. From spot checking the buildable area on most of the lots, particularly the corner lots, it looks like they can meet all the building setbacks, but we would like to have clarification from the applicant to make sure that they have no concerns about meeting the building setbacks, because what we don't want to create is a plat that has to go back and get variances from lot size setbacks and things of that nature. But from spot checking it, it does look like it meets all the requirements. And again, staff recommends approval with the condition that we just have confirmation that there will be enough buildable area on all the lots. And again, it really applies to the corner lots, that there is enough area without having to obtain setbacks in the future unless there's some unusual circumstance, obviously. And like I mentioned, this did go through a lengthy process with Planning Commission, the public, work sessions, and ultimately the City Council that approved this. And as we move forward with this, we will work to make sure that all the items addressed in the PDD document are addressed and will be brought to fruition. Again, a lot of details in that. As you can see in the middle of the development, there's a large piece of property that initially was not there when you first saw it probably. But as we went through the process, they created that open space, tree retention, things of that nature. Those are the positive things that came out of this process. But again, this is a preliminary plat approval process, so they do meet the requirements that we see. Again, maybe a little bit of clarification from the applicant, but we do recommend approval.
One way in, one way out, right?
That's correct. That's what was approved.
Yeah, Maurice, I'm not going to try and undo anything that y'all have, worked so hard on. My question is, if we approve it, we can't put that condition on it, can we? The condition that you're asking for, we're either going to approve it or not approve it, right?
Are you talking about the color-coded or?
Basically, there's some, I just want to make sure, because there's no building setback lines indicated on here, I just want to make sure that the applicant is comfortable the way this is laid out, that no variances wouldn't have to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals at some point.
Okay. Would you like to ask that of the applicant?
Yeah, if the applicant.
Other than that, it meets all the requirements that we see, yes.
Okay. So is the applicant here that can speak to that? The applicant would step forward just to speak to that for the setback information. I don't know if you need to bring, that map's a lot smaller than what you got for us here, but just wanted to ask that. So the question is, the color-coded setback information is indicated on the plat. We just want to make sure that there's nothing that going forward would make you have to come back in front of us for the PDD.
We don't have any problem with the setbacks at all. But when the civil drawings are complete, that's when we're going to do the setbacks, and we've discussed that with Maurice. We don't have any problems with the setbacks. but this was just a preliminary plat, and we're in the process of doing the civil plans. So in the civil plans, it'll show those setbacks properly. But we're in agreement with what the city's requirement is.
Thank you.
Any other questions for?
Yeah.
Good for me.
We added them. When we were doing this preliminary plat, it was tight to put them all on this preliminary plat. That's why we noted them in the lot sizes.
Okay. All right. Hearing that, would someone like to make a recommendation for SD 2106? This is not a public hearing. This is just for, the public hearing for this was several months ago when we had that.
Saying we want to be on the plan. I mean, look at your map. What's on the thing here? Cancer is spreading perspective, and I don't know how this is already.
The signs were out, and I can't speak for the county, what they did back in '08, but I know with the city, the planning department team does put out the things with the signs that show, this is coming before. This was done back in, I want to say September.
It was finalized in September. It went through an extensive process. It was tabled several times at the city council level to get more input. It was a very public process.
But you're saying you put on the first one and you approved it.
As far as
what development?
you're talking about the annexation?
This is
This was already.
This has already been annexed, already been approved, and this went through a lengthy process. We had several meetings about it.
It's contiguous.
So if you look at this map,
This area is in the city.
everything inside. All right, so what we do here at the Planning Commission is we look at the zoning, we look at what's the best use or the future use of these properties. So what we do is we recommend to City Council, the City Council or the policymakers. So you would have to come in front of the January the City Council meeting when it comes, as they will. Well, not for this. So this has been decided. This is no longer public. This are up for public debate. This is mainly just for, it's already been put in for planned development, and so now they just have to pass what we've set forth. I mean, I understand with traffic and things like that, and that's really, unfortunately, it's a Department of Transportation problem. I know that they are putting in 2 roundabouts in these areas. They're moving that road that's Harriet Circle. I don't know the time frame. Again, it's that. So again, moving back to SD 2106, preliminary subdivision plat approval. Hearing what we saw, or hearing what the applicant said about the setbacks, do we have a motion for approval? A second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we will consider it. It'll be considered in front of City Council. And since there was no addenda to the agenda, we will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.